For 2,000 years, this scene has been burned into human consciousness. Every Christmas pageant, every nativity scene, every painting in every museum. The story is simple. A cruel world, a heartless innkeeper, no room, and a savior born in the dirt and straw, rejected before he even drew his first breath. But in 1967, a respected biblical scholar named Kenneth Bailey did something radical. He lived for 40 years in Middle Eastern villages, the same villages where ancient customs have remained unchanged for millennia. And what he discovered shattered everything we thought we knew. The story we've been told isn't just incomplete. According to historians and archaeologists, nearly every detail is based on a single mistranslation, a word that was misunderstood for centuries. And when you correct that word, the entire Christmas story transforms from a tale of rejection into something far more profound. The cultural impossibility. Before we reveal what really happened, we need to understand why the traditional story is culturally impossible. And to do that, we need to understand one fundamental law of the ancient Middle East: hospitality. In first-century Judea, hospitality wasn't just good manners. It was sacred. It was law. Turning away a stranger could bring shame on your entire village. But turning away your own family? That would be an unthinkable dishonor, one that would haunt your name for generations. Here's what the gospel actually tells us. Joseph traveled to Bethlehem because it was his ancestral home, the city of David. He wasn't a random stranger knocking on doors. He was a son of Bethlehem, returning to register for a Roman census, coming back to a town filled with his own relatives. Now imagine this: your cousin, who your family hasn't seen in years, arrives at your door. His wife is 9 months pregnant. She's in active labor. And you look him in the eye and tell him to sleep with the animals. In that culture, this doesn't just make you rude. It makes you a monster. It would violate every social, religious, and family obligation. Your own parents would disown you. So the question isn't just where Jesus was born. The question is, why have we believed for centuries that his own family rejected him? The archaeological evidence. In 2009, archaeologists confirmed what scholars had suspected for decades. First-century Bethlehem was not a city. It wasn't even a large town. It was a village. Population, fewer than 300 people. Bethlehem set off the major trade routes. There was no marketplace, no merchant district. And after decades of excavation across the region, archaeologists have never found evidence of a single commercial inn anywhere near. First-century Bethlehem. This matters because the Bible has a very specific word for a commercial inn: bandocheion. Luke, the author of the Gospel, uses this exact word in the parable of the Good Samaritan. He knew the word. He was a careful historian. But in the birth story, Luke doesn't use that word. He uses a completely different word: Katalyma. And for centuries, translators made a catastrophic error. They assumed both words meant the same thing. The word that changes everything. Luke chapter 2 verse 7, and she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the Katalyma. So what does Katalyma actually mean? We don't have to guess. Luke uses this exact same word 2 more times in his gospel. Both times, it's in the story of the Last Supper. Jesus tells his disciples, "Go into the city and find the master of the house. Ask him, 'Where is the Katalyma, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?'" And what does the master show them? A large furnished upper room in a private family home. Katalyma doesn't mean inn, it means guest room. Now read the verse again. She laid him in a manger because there was no space in the guest room. Not because they were rejected, but because the guest room was already full. Reconstructing the truth. This is what a typical first-century Bethlehem home actually looked like. Archaeologists have excavated dozens of these structures across Judea. The design is nearly identical. The main room was a raised platform where the family cooked, ate, and slept. Adjacent to it, or sometimes above it, was a small guest room, the Katalyma, for visiting relatives. And in the lower part of the same structure, carved into stone or separated by a low wall, the family kept their most valuable possessions, their animals. When Joseph and Mary arrived, they weren't strangers. They were family, and family takes care of family. But the census had brought relatives from across Judea. The guest room was packed with sleeping cousins, uncles, grandparents. So the family did what any family would do. They made room in the main house. But here's where the story becomes truly brilliant. Under Jewish law, specifically Leviticus chapter 12, a woman who gave birth was considered ritually unclean for 7 days. Anyone who touched her, or anything she touched, became unclean. If Mary gave birth in the main family room, she would render the entire household ritually unclean. The family couldn't pray, couldn't go to synagogue, couldn't participate in the census registration. For devout Jews, this was serious. So Mary moved to the only space in the house that was considered separate. The animal quarters, often a cave or stone-walled alcove. By giving birth there, she wasn't being humiliated. She was protecting her family from ritual impurity. It was an act of respect. And they honored her by making that space as clean and comfortable as possible. And when the baby was born, she placed him in the manger, the feeding trough, because it was there. Smooth, clean stone, lined with fabric, surrounded by family. So Jesus was not born in a cold, filthy stable, rejected by a cruel world. He was born in the humble, ordinary space of a crowded family home, welcomed, surrounded by relatives. In a moment that wasn't about rejection, but about humility. The King of Kings didn't enter the world in a palace, but he also wasn't abandoned. He was born the way millions of babies in that region were born, in the practical, sacred, messy reality of family life. One mistranslated word, 2,000 years of misunderstanding, and a story that's even more beautiful when you know the truth. But this isn't the only part of the Christmas story we've gotten wrong. You've seen them in every nativity scene. The 3 wise men, arriving at the manger with their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But here's the problem. The Bible never says there were 3. It never calls them kings. And according to the Gospel of Matthew, they didn't arrive at a manger at all. They showed up at a house, nearly 2 years later. And when King Herod found out, he ordered the execution of every male child under 2 years old in Bethlehem. Who were these mysterious visitors? Why did their arrival trigger a massacre? And what were they really bringing to a toddler in Nazareth? Our next investigation reveals the truth behind the Magi, and it's far stranger than anything you learned in Sunday school.